California's largest commuter rail just became the most modern railroad in North America, and today, in this exclusive WorldwideRailfan video, we'll be visiting the newly electrified Peninsula Corridor, seeing the new CalTrain for ourselves, and ask the question, how will this affect the rest of passenger rail in North America? CalTrain is the busiest commuter rail west of the Mississippi, serving the Northern California cities of San Francisco, San Jose, Gilroy, and everything in between, otherwise known as the Silicon Valley. This week they'll be replacing the final diesel-powered trains with modern electric world-class commuter trains, making CalTrain the first American commuter rail to convert from diesel to electric in quite some time. While it's only appeared in the news recently, CalTrain's electrification is more than 30 years in the making. All the way back in 1992, CalTrain released a study discussing the viability of electrifying its rapidly expanding corridor from San Francisco to San Jose in order to improve local air quality, cut the travel time between the two cities with faster acceleration and deceleration, and to cut fuel and train maintenance costs. In true California fashion, though this study highly recommended the corridor be electrified, the process of planning and funding this project took decades, and it wasn't until 2012 that CalTrain would receive money for electrification. The CalTrain Modernization Project, very creatively shortened to CalMod, received its first bit of funding not as a standalone project, but as a part of California high-speed rail. The idea was that the future high-speed rail would run on the CalTrain route, but in order to do that, it would have to be upgraded quite a bit, with a modern signaling system, fewer grade crossings, and most importantly, overhead electrification. Fast forward a few more years of planning, lawsuits, government funding, the government withholding funding, and more bureaucracy that no one wants to hear about, and on July 21, 2017, CalTrain broke ground on the project. Over the next 6 years, more than 100 miles of wires would be installed between San Francisco and Tamiami Station in San Jose, electric substations would be built, and CalTrain would order 23 7-car electric multiple unit trains built by Stadler. At the time, this Swiss railcar manufacturer was relatively new to the American market, but had years of experience building some of the world's most cutting-edge passenger trains in Europe. By the early 2020s, CalMod was well underway, with the first trains being completed and testing soon beginning, ironically with the 40-year-old AEM-7 that the 1992 viability study considered using. In early 2024, the process of installing wires drew to a close, and with a handful of new trains on the property, CalTrain began testing on certain parts of its line. Finally, in the summer of 2024, after well over 3 years of planning and construction, the first electric trains entered service, with CalTrain soft launching them on August 11th. The following week I flew out to California, hoping to document the transitional period between diesel-electric, and I wasn't disappointed. Let's get trackside and see the new trains for ourselves. Here we are at San Antonio Station in Mountain View, a city on the south end of the Peninsula Corridor, and it's 5 in the afternoon. As rush hour begins to pick up, a southbound train rolls through with the veteran F40 in the lead. Notice how though it's coasting into the station, its engine is running at full throttle. This is a quirk of certain CalTrain F40s, in which they were never rebuilt with separate generators to power the passenger car's functions. 907 is one of only 5 original F40s that never received this overhaul, and it's lovingly referred to as a screamer. Less than 10 minutes later, another F40 rips through on an express train, this time with a separate head-end power generator. Compared to the 5 screamers, these F40s don't run at full throttle all the time, making them slightly more efficient, albeit not as much as the electric trains. Speaking of the electric trains, here's one now. Notice the lack of noise aside from the horn and bell. This is a Stadler KISS train, which although being quite common in Europe, is a very rare sight here in America. These Swiss trains are assembled in Salt Lake City per the Buy America Act, but feature cutting-edge European technology generally unseen in the States. Notice the doors at 2 separate levels on the outside of the train. This is for future California high-speed rail platforms, which will be elevated above the CalTrain ones, a sign of even more that is to come for the Peninsula Corridor. Hot on the heels of the electric train is yet another diesel-hauled express, or should I say diesels-hauled express. One of the less talked about benefits of electric trains is their reliability when compared to diesel locomotives, which have a lot more moving parts. In this case, it seems that one of these F40s was having some issues and needed a second engine as backup. Finally, let's take one more look at one of the Stadler electric multiple units making a station stop. As it quietly coasts into the station, you can hear the regenerative braking in action, which is able to capture and return power to the grid when coming to a stop, something diesels cannot do. In addition to the added reliability and efficiency, these new trains feature much nicer interiors with spacious seating, ADA accessible bathrooms, and power outlets at every seat. As the train departs, notice how fast it accelerates. This isn't just the engineer ripping the throttle, but the train's distributive tractive effort. Unlike a locomotive-hauled train, every axle is powered on a multiple unit, and this, in conjunction with instant electric torque, allows CalTrain to shave around 20 minutes off the journey between Tamian and San Francisco. It also helps the train to stop faster in the case of an emergency. Between August and September, CalTrain would steadily phase out diesel trains in favor of the new electrics, and in just 2 days on the 21st of September, the diesels will be entirely replaced between San Francisco and San Jose, making CalTrain without a doubt the first North American commuter rail that can hold a candle to those of Europe or Asia. The new electric trains will also allow CalTrain to run trains every 30 minutes or better, every day including weekends. Additionally, starting then, CalTrain will begin to sell off its aging rail cars and diesel locomotives, some of which are nearing 40 years old. Surprisingly, they're not done there either, as more is planned for the Peninsula Corridor in the future. You may have noticed that CalTrain's line continues south of San Jose without electrification to Gilroy, but this is set to change somewhat in the next few years. Compared to its electrified section through the heart of Silicon Valley, the San Jose to Gilroy section of CalTrain isn't nearly as busy and thus was not chosen to be electrified. As of right now, CalTrain plans to test a 4-car battery electric variant of its KISS EMU beginning in 2030 that will be able to charge while on the wire and allow for potential through running from San Francisco to Gilroy. Aside from the one battery train, recently overhauled F40PH-2C and MP36 diesel locomotives will haul existing Bombardier bi-level cars on the Gilroy section. As mentioned before, sometime in the 2040s, the electrified CalTrain corridor will become even more busy as it begins to host California high-speed rail. For the 50 or so miles between San Jose and San Francisco, CalTrain will share tracks with high-speed trains traveling at up to 110 miles per hour, making the Peninsula Corridor one of the busiest lines in the country. Until then, however, CalTrain stands alone as the benchmark for what a truly modern American commuter rail can look like, and other cities have already taken notice. In 2022, more than 2 years before CalTrain's electrification was completed, Ontario's Go Transit finalized the Go Expansion project, which similarly plans to install a modern signaling system on its network, as well as to electrify it and run trains every 15 minutes or better on 5 lines. As of right now, the first electric trains are expected in the early 2030s. Similarly to Go Transit, Boston's MBTA commuter rail has expressed interest in an electrified regional rail model, but currently has no plans short of battery electric multiple units. This is hopefully set to change in the near future though, as the agency is awaiting desperately needed funding. Regardless, it's become very clear to me that CalTrain is the first of many American commuter rails to be electrified. Despite its steep price tag, electrification is better for the environment than diesel, is more reliable, is cheaper to operate once the infrastructure is built, and allows for faster and higher frequency trains. These are the exact benefits that have attracted Toronto and Boston's commuter rails to the idea of electrification and are sure to attract more in the future. CalTrain is simply just the first railroad to do it. Hey there, thanks for watching. As you just saw, I recently traveled out to California to check out the newly electrified CalTrain, but that wasn't the only thing I did when I was out there. While in Sacramento, I was given the opportunity to go on a factory tour of Siemens Mobility, where they build rail cars and locomotives for countless different railroads across the country. Be sure to tune in for that exclusive video in 2 weeks. Also, if you want to see more of my footage from CalTrain and beyond in Northern California, consider becoming a member of the channel. It's just $1 a month, and with that you get members-only railfanning videos. Thanks again, and I hope to see you for my next video in 2 weeks.